right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
Let's talk about Mack Hollins. He was the top X receiver as soon as the Patriots went out there with it wasn't a true 11 on 11s, but it was 11 on 11 walkthrough session. He was the top X alongside Stephon Diggs and Pop Douglas. So taking that from what you saw today, what does Mack Hollins mean for this team? How do you think he can flush out the rest of the wide receiver room, and whose job is now in jeopardy that Hollins is officially off PUP, and if he does make the team, is going to need to take one of those roster spots?
Yeah, so Mack Hollins obviously missed the entire spring, started on PUP, but this is a guy who we've heard from receivers. Josh McDaniels has been using him as teach tape from their time with the Raiders. I know Pop joked that he saw Hollins running a juke route. He was like, I was kind of surprised to see him. He's a bigger guy, usually on the outside, not really that number 3 where you want to get him in space against the linebacker. But it was pretty obvious from what we had heard that Mack Hollins was going to have a pretty significant role. And now we saw exactly what it was. So like you said, he started off as the top X over Kayshon Boutte, and in the next drill, Kayshon Boutte assumed his usual role as the top X. But we saw Mack Hollins move all over the formation in a way that we haven't seen from any other receivers on this roster. He played at the X. There were some run plays where he was close to the formation as a Z, even lined up in the slot with some personnel with like Kyle Williams and Kendrick Bourne outside. So it was clear they wanted to make sure he was used, maybe not to the maximum because he is still coming off of the PUP list, but the fact that he was using different personnel groupings at different spots pretty much hints that he's going to have a very key role. And if you talk about the skill set, we know Mack Hollins is an excellent blocker, a tone-setting blocker, in fact, which is why I thought he was probably going to live as the Z, because those guys are usually closer to the side where the run is happening. But we also know he is a bigger guy. He had some success along the sideline when he was with the Raiders in formations where he and Devontae Adams were both outside the numbers. And then in the slot, again, a position where you're closer to the line, so you can be used as a bit more of a blocker. So I'm excited to see what his role is maybe going to be in tomorrow's scrimmage. And then once he puts back on the pads, to see how exactly he's utilized and how much he competes against this Patriots cornerback room that, as we know, has gotten thinner, but did get a bit of a boost today with Carlton Davis coming back.
It'll be interesting to see if he's someone who, like Jalen Polk, when he was working back, once he was on the field, he was full go. So it'll be interesting to see how they use Hollins in tomorrow's scrimmage, which will be inside of Gillette Stadium. We'll be here covering it. And from what it sounds like, Greg Bedard wrote this in his notes the other day, it sounds like it's going to be a full padded scrimmage, a little bit higher intensity, and Greg even mentioned that there might be some tackling. So that's going to be pretty fun. It's going to be fascinating to see.
Nasty.
Yeah, that'll be fun because, again, we'll get to see where this team is truly at offensively and defensively with some real hitting and some actual high-intensity scrimmage. So we'll keep an eye out on Hollins there. The one thing I did want to add to the Hollins situation and the wide receiver situation is that him being on the roster, and I was talking with 2 days in a row with John Serenides mentioned, New England Football Journal, was talking to him yesterday about how the wide receiver room, though, could flush out because, as I said before, with Hollins off of PUP, if you want to keep him on the roster, he needs to have one of those 53 roster spots. And Efton Chisholm is someone who has been steady in where he is. He hasn't taken the leap into the first team reps like we'd probably want to see from him. I'm sure what fans want to see from him. He spoke today after practice, actually said that he's been watching a lot of Danny Amendola tape. Yeah. Someone who inside versatility, just like Chisholm can have. So with Chisholm and then Kendrick Bourne as well, I wonder what Kendrick Bourne's outlook on the roster looks like right now. And I hate saying it because he's a fan favorite. He had his best NFL season in Josh McDaniels' system, and he's someone who really seems like he wants to be here. But with Hollins now in the mix, you're going to keep Kyle Williams. You're obviously going to keep Stephon Diggs, Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Polk, Efton Chisholm. I feel like those 4 guys are kind of all fighting for 2 spots. So I know it's still early in camp. We still have a ways to go, but Hollins adds another whole wrinkle because he's someone who they paid him the money in the offseason. He's going to make this football team. I wonder who gets left off.
When you talk about Kendrick Bourne, not only is he's had his time with Drake May as well, but he's mostly been the backup at Z behind Stephon Diggs. Not even just that, great pull from Brian Hines. Kendrick Bourne, I think, has caught 1 or no passes from Drake May in training camp during 11-on-11s, which is pretty significant. I think the only pass he's caught is in 7-on-7. So that's pretty discouraging, right? When you're going back and looking at the tape and saying, all right, who does Drake have chemistry with? Mack Hollins and Kendrick Bourne are pretty much at the same spot in terms of their chemistry with Drake May. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see how exactly this battle plays out. I tweeted a few days ago that it seemed pretty obvious. At X, you got Kayshon Boutte and Kyle Williams. At Z, it's been Stephon Diggs and Kendrick Bourne. And in the slot, Demario Douglas and Ethan Chisholm seemed like they were going to be the group. With Mack Hollins, I said he was going to make the team in some capacity,
Right.
whether it was on the active roster or if he had to start off on an injury list. But now that Hollins is back, I just don't really see a world where Kendrick Bourne stays because he doesn't really have a role. Could they keep 7 receivers? Maybe, especially because Ethan Chisholm and Mack Hollins do bring special teams ability. Obviously, almost everybody in that room has some level of return ability outside of Diggs. They just wouldn't really use him in that capacity. But yeah, I think it's more realistic that they keep 6. Tight end room is also shallow too, so we'll see how it plays out. But with Mack Hollins and Efton Chisholm having special teams value, Kendrick Bourne not really having that and being a depth receiver just feels like the writing's on the wall for him.
One of the definitely the top position group to watch as training camp and as the summer moves forward. We'll get some more info